Hi, this video is just in response to the ABC and an article that they ran, or a few articles they ran, basically accusing the church of being a big perpetrator of domestic violence. Now, they would probably suggest that they didn't do that, but having had a look at those articles, if you've had a look at the articles, you'll see that the imagery that is used, the language that is used, is highly critical of the Bible and highly critical of the church. But yet, even in my communication with the ABC, when I talked to them via email, they came back to me and said, oh, well, look, there is no statistical difference between church people and people in the general population in terms of abuse levels. So overall, if you look at the statistics as a whole, there isn't any real difference. And so, and even in one sense, in some of the studies, there was it showed that the church was a little bit better at handling themselves when it came to domestic violence. So to say, to run articles blaming the church or blaming the Bible, I think is not really a good thing to do. I think there needs to be a little bit more balance. So what I'm attempting to do today is bring some balance into that equation. Say, well, okay, what does the Bible actually teach about wives and about husbands? Now, the criticism of the ABC was that wives are taught to be submissive. And so they took that to the nth degree and said, well, husbands are going around saying, submit to me, submit to me, submit to me, or else. But that's not the way that the Bible actually puts forward the message of submission in the church. Now, it is true that wives are told to submit to their husbands. I'll just get the verse here. There's one here in Ephesians 5:22. Wives, be under the authority of your husbands as to the Lord. But the thing which is sort of missed, I think, is that straight after that verse where it says, wives submit as unto the Lord, there's a verse which says that the husband is to sacrificially serve his wife in the same way that Christ gave up his heavenly life and died for us. So it's basically saying that, like Christ gave his life for us, we're to give our lives for our wives. Now, somebody who's giving their life for their wife is not thinking of themselves, but, trying to do the best for them. I'll just read the verse here. It says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. In the same way, a husband should love his wife as much as he loves himself. So there we see that the husband is encouraged to love his wife. Definitely no abuse in that statement. And also in Ephesians there it says, let yourselves be ruled by one another in the fear of Christ. So it's not saying to the husband, you must rule over your wife. It's saying, husbands, you also let your wife from time to time rule over you, and wife from time to time be ruled by your husband. So it means submitting to one another. It means listening to one another, being co-heirs. And if we go down further here, let's just see, I've got a couple of verses here that I wanted to read, talking about co-heirs. It says, if you are a husband, you should be thoughtful of your wife. So this is from the Bible. If you are a husband, you should be thoughtful of your wife. Treat her with honour because she isn't as strong as you are, and she shares with you the gift of life. Then nothing will stand in the way of your prayers. So it's saying, yes, the man is physically stronger, but it says here, treat her with honour. Respect her because she is not as strong as you are, and she shares with you the gift of life. It says here, if you're a husband, you should be thoughtful of your wife. Now, there's nothing in the Bible which is talking about rulership, dictatorship, pushing your wife down, all that sort of thing. So I think that the article is highly, the person who wrote it obviously believed what they were saying, but it's not actually true. And Colossians again says, a husband must love his wife and not abuse her. So again, it's even saying specifically here that a husband should not abuse his wife. Now, one last thing. This is more just, a verse that I like out of the Bible, but it talks about what it is to be a leader. Now, the husband is given the leadership role in the family. That's clear in the Bible, but it says here, Jesus called his disciples together and said, you know that those foreigners who call themselves kings like to order people around, and their great leaders have full power over the people they rule. Don't be like them. If you want to be great, you must be the servant of all others. And if you want to be first, you must be everybody's slave. So there we see that Jesus in his teaching was saying, look, if you're the ruler, if you're the master, you've got to be like me. You've got to serve others. You've got to be their servant. Now, in a marriage relationship, that exact same principle applies, and as we've seen from the verses here, like submit yourselves to one another. It's talking about having that attitude of being thoughtful, or being a servant to that person that you're leading. And so family leadership is not about submission and pushing a woman down. It's about serving her needs. Well, I'll just go again through some of these, pull out some of the verses here. If you're a husband, you should be thoughtful of your wife. Treat her with honour, because she isn't as strong as you are, and she shares with you the gift of life. And a husband must love his wife, again, and not abuse her. So again, it's all talking about being thoughtful, being kind. And that's who God is. God is kind and generous. And so take with a grain of salt the stuff that you saw on the ABC article, because it really, it hasn't done justice to what the Word of God actually says.